Knowing when to take the shot is an important photographic skill. Would you have been able to catch this cherry hitting the water? Or would you have been able to focus and shoot when this paper wasp appeared in front of your lens for only a half second? Well, maybe. But even if your reaction time was good enough to grab one of these fleeting images, chances are an action like this one would have been over by the time you pressed the shutter. Getting this kind of a shot requires some mechanical help, unless you happen to think that you could wait for this kernel of popcorn to pop and then fire off 5 quick shots before it stops. Your camera can stop action with a speed of 1,000th or maybe even a 2,000th of a second. Your flash is even faster, with a duration of a 10,000th of a second or less. That's great, but which 10,000th of a second will you photograph? And once you've decided, how do you get that precise 10,000th of a second? Those are the problems that Greg Dale decided to tackle. You can see the kind of success he had by judging the results. All of these pictures were taken with his Dale Beam device. We've come to Arlington, Virginia to get the whole story on how those photographs and others like them were created. 9 years ago, a co-worker of National Geographic photographer Bruce Dale wanted to get a shot of a frog in mid-flight while it was jumping. Well, she eventually got the shot, but first a piece of equipment had to be invented, a small electronic box that has since become known as the Dale Beam. What's surprising is the Dale Beam wasn't named after National Geographic photographer Bruce Dale at all. It was named after the inventor, Bruce's son, 14-year-old Greg Dale, then just a high school electronics wizard. Well, in the 9 years since Greg invented the Dale Beam, he's been working on perfecting it, and now it's become a standard piece of equipment for those photographers who need to get a specific kind of high-speed shot. Greg, thank you for inviting us into your home today. Tell us about this sophisticated-looking piece of electronic equipment.
Okay, well, this is the Dale Beam, and this is what I've developed for photographers to use for high-speed photography and nature photography, where you want to set up a device in remote situations. And it's a product of about 9 years of my work and research, and it's a totally new device. There's nothing else like it.
So you got involved with this at age 14. Tell us the story about that.
Well, I was working with electronics as a hobby, and photography was my hobby too. And some co-workers of my father, Bruce Dale, wanted to photograph frogs leaping through the air, insects in flight, some very difficult shots which involve close-up work and high-speed work. And I knew I could develop an infrared type device that would automatically trip the camera when some sort of subject went through a light beam. And so I developed a prototype device kind of as a science fair project for my own needs and also for photographers. And as it turns out, National Geographic purchased a couple of them, and they're still using them to this day for nature photography and insect work.
Must have been a thrill as a 14-year-old for an internationally famous magazine to purchase something that you had made.
Yeah, it's been fun, and I traveled all over the United States displaying my electronic gear and some photographs I took with it also.
Is that what it looked like 9 years ago?
No, when I first developed the device, it was 2 pretty big electronic boxes, and one was a transmitter, one was a receiver, and one transmits an infrared beam to the receiver, and anything that breaks that beam will trip a camera or strobe or motor drive. And that basically is the whole principle behind the device.
Greg, you put in a lot of time, probably spent a lot of money, and put in a lot of thought developing the Dale Beam. Isn't that a lot of trouble to go to? I mean, couldn't we just be quick on the shutter release and snap that picture?
No, it boils down to a discussion of response time. A person just isn't quick enough to press the camera button at the exact instant, and it's where you need a device like this to kind of do that work for you. It's a lot faster than your finger. Perhaps it's easier to see with the demonstration. My father and I worked out an illustration outside, and we'll use this orange and him, and we'll illustrate the problem of reaction times.
Great. We'll be back with Greg and Bruce Dale and talk about reaction times right after this.